So they're going to be ready for the challenge, but you're coming into the Marriott Center, which is it's a different place to play. This is an opportunity to show they're one of the top teams in the Big 12. They are continuing to stay hungry, and this is our time to fire off 6, 7, 8 wins in a row. Let's go out and get more.
Oh, shout out to the editors for that.
What? Raising our game. Let's go.
Outstanding hype video right there as we welcome you back to Studio B. This is your day-to-day BYU Sports play-by-play. I am Spencer Linton. That is Jarom Jordan. Joining us now from his lofty perch in Bristol, Connecticut is ESPN college basketball analyst, insider, expert, all-around good man. He is Sean Farnham. All right, Sean, we said it last week. Hey, BYU's got an opportunity to go out and prove that this 3-game win streak isn't a fluke. Got to go on the road. Got to beat UCF. You said, look, I'm not expecting BYU to win that game. Then they do it, Sean. So now that they won 4 in a row, how has your perception changed on the Cougars since last week?
Well, and look, they're trending in the right direction, right? I think defensively they did a lot of really good things in that game against UCF. UCF did a lot of the things that they normally do. 21 out of 25 from the free throw line. They get there as much as anybody in the country. But the ball movement, the three-point shooting from beyond the arc, the 14 made three-pointers, BYU executed the way that you need to in order to get a win on the road. And road wins are gold inside the Big 12. Like when you win on the road, it's like 2 wins at home. And that was a massive performance for them. And it's one that, like, all of a sudden, guys, we were talking about how many wins are they going to end up with at the end of the regular season in conference play. All of a sudden you start going, wait, 11 is really doable now. Like, really doable. We could get to 12. What if we get to 12? Can we get to, like, things steamroll pretty quickly and teams can go on a run. And there's enough firepower on this team. And that's been part of the struggle with me, at least at times, is looking at this roster and knowing the roster so well that when they took some losses, I was like, man, that's a bad loss for them. Like they should be winning that game. And, in particular, the Utah game. And think back on that one. If you win that one, how much different does it feel right now? Even more so based on this win streak. So there's a lot of close margins. There hasn't been a lot of great separation in a lot of these games, and I think that's probably going to continue down the stretch. But Richie Saunders and what he's done this year has been outstanding. I mean, he is the best player on this team, the most consistent player, and that's saying a lot considering there's 2 guys on this team that could be drafted in the NBA draft. But Richie Saunders has been that guy that's kind of been the heartbeat of this group, and he has been the most consistent shooter from the outside. His confidence in who he is and how he's playing has been elite, and I think it's been really fun to watch.
At the handshake line, after Keba Keita, some people started John with him, Darius Johnson, Arizona doesn't have a handshake line with Arizona State. Do you predict that BYU and Arizona will shake hands tonight?
Why are you guys so angry all the time? Like, why is BYU such an angry? No, I'm just kidding.
We didn't start it. They started it.
I know. I'm just being sarcastic. No, there'll be a handshake line tonight. That was preposterous, anyways, down at
right?
Tempe over the weekend. Like, I couldn't figure that one out. Like, a lot of stuff that went on down the stretch of that game. I think both sides had played their role in what transpired and in the competitive rivalry. And I've been in those situations before. At the end of it, you should still be able to shake hands without altercation. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just the old guy that says, like, hey, you can do that now. And the new kids are like, nah, we're not doing that. I don't think there'll be any issue in that tonight. I think tonight will be very competitive. I think it'll be very spirited. I think it's going to be very aggressive. I think it's going to be hostile at times. I think Arizona's going to feel that environment. But at the end of the day, I think they're shaking hands.
Sean, BYU is a 2.5-point favorite according to Vegas. They got a 52% chance to win according to Ken Pom. I just presented my idea as to why that might be, and that is because Arizona hasn't faced the toughest road schedule. Clearly, the toughest road game they played is their only Big 12 loss, losing by 16 at Texas Tech. They do have the road win at West Virginia, which is, to their credit, good. But outside of that, Oklahoma State, Cincinnati, Arizona State, those are not great teams right now. Playing at the Marriott Center, as you know, is very different. So am I crazy to buy into BYU as a favorite making sense?
You're not crazy. I would not say they're the favorite going into tonight's game. But you're not crazy for that because I was at that game at Texas Tech, and Texas Tech and their defensive philosophy of kind of playing that pack line defense in particular in the second half, forced Arizona to deviate from what has made them successful during their stretch here. They've been playing outstanding basketball, obviously sitting at 9-1 atop the conference since their 4-5 start. And in large part, that's been based on ball movement. When they share the basketball, some really good things happen. When they start playing one-on-one basketball, things start to deteriorate very quickly. Caleb Love is kind of the catalyst within that too. I think it was Jarom in the last segment talked about him being a volume shooter.
Yeah,
he is, but he's and also much more efficient during this stretch. So while he shoots a lot, he's also been making a lot. And then you add in his assist numbers. I believe he had 7 assists on Saturday at ASU. So if he's shooting a lot, that's one thing. But if he's passing it as much as he's shooting it, all of a sudden that brings about better ball movement for this group. And I think that's been the biggest key, because what that allows them to do through their good offense and not turning it over as much and getting better quality shot and forcing their opponents to take the ball out of the net, they get back and they get to set their defense. And anytime a team gets to set their defense, they're inherently going to be better, right? If you turn the ball over, and again, if there was a concern of mine tonight, you can talk about the shooting numbers, you can talk about the similarities in rebounding and all of those things that you guys were talking about in the last segment, but 17 turnovers in the game against UCF, and that led to 18 points. You have 17 turnovers tonight. I promise you Arizona's getting over 25 points off those turnovers, and that is a great neutralizer. And so they have to really value the basketball tonight against this Wildcats team. It's not just their offensive rebounding ability. Jaden Bradley is a very good defensive player. KJ Lewis is very physical out on the wing. They have multiple guys that are willing to get into a stance and defend. I think Carter Bryant, their very talented freshman, is starting to play better and better every single game. He's been an essential aspect of this run, outside of just their interior presence and the guys that can rebound underneath.
I feel like BYU needs on Selection Sunday to have on the resume the best win being either Arizona, Kansas, or Iowa State at some point, like one of those three.
I heard you say that. Why?
So that they can be as high a seed as possible. You could gobble up some of the other ones, but if you have one of these, like top 20, top 15 net games, that kind of gives you a little more oomph. Which of those three is most winnable for BYU?
Listen, I think if you finish in the top 4 in the Big 12, it's really not going to matter where you're at. Top 5.
You'll grab one of those if you finish top 4 too, right?
Well, I mean, maybe, but maybe not. I mean, you look around what's going on. Like Iowa State's really banged up right now. So, like, the way teams are defending Iowa State right now are completely different than where they were playing Iowa State like a couple weeks ago. They can't make shots. And so all of a sudden they become a little bit of like, okay, well, what's going on there? How long is those injuries going to happen? I think if you look at the upcoming schedule, I think this opportunity and the Kansas opportunity are the two best opportunities to get another signature win on your schedule. But within that, there's other games that are equally important. It cannot just be, and this is, I think we do this all the time. We focus too much on, well, they need another signature win. Here's what they need. They need to not have a bad loss as much as they need that big win. Like if you lose to Utah in the final game of the regular season at home, that's a bad loss.
Sure.
If you lose to West Virginia at home, bad loss. If you lose to Kansas State at home, even though Kansas State, by the way, playing much, much better, it ends up being a bad loss. Cincinnati on the road is a game you have to go win now, because Cincinnati's struggling so much. So as much as we talk about those games, I would put more onus, the big games, I would put more onus on the games that I just mentioned than necessarily these huge wins. These huge wins, that's the, you know, the whipped cream and the cherry on top of the ice cream sundae. You can still have a great sundae without those two ingredients. It makes it better, sure. But I think the substance in the season is going to be not losing some of those games that you need to win, that you look at and say, if we're going to be a top half finisher in conference play, we can't take a bad loss. Because if I told you, hey, you're going to beat Arizona, but you're going to lose to Utah again on your home floor to end the season, that negates all the positivity of winning the game tonight.
Sean Farnham of ESPN is on BYU Sports Nation. Hey, we're here for the sweet cream base, Sean. Okay, we want the substance. Okay, part of BYU.
Hey, I've gone to In-N-Out up the street after games, and I see what that In-N-Out looks like. Like you go up that road, I forget what road it is. He goes wraps
University
up around.
Parkway.
It's like on the way to Utah Valley.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you go to the In-N-Out there after a BYU game. Every student that's in the Rock is essentially in that In-N-Out at that point in time. It is madhouse.
It's probably the only thing open.
Especially tonight.
It might be.
Sean Farnham is on BYU Sports Station. Okay, part of the substance of that ice cream base has been BYU's three-point shooting, specifically during the four-game win streak, Sean. BYU has taken 101 three-pointers in that four-game stretch and made 48. And I'm doing some quick math here, and that's, I think, about 47.5%, which is a crazy number. How sustainable is BYU's three-point shooting at that mark?
It's not. Like it's just not. There's no team in the country that shoots 47% as a team over a long stretch period of time, especially when you look at the defenses that you're going to be playing coming up. And in particular, teams are going to try to continue to run BYU off the three-point line because they're looking at those same numbers and they're seeing the same metrics. So I think that will be, they'll have to make another adjustment. The season is all about making adjustments. However, this is a good enough shooting team to be a 40% three-point shooting team, and that's elite. When you as a group, as a collective group, can shoot 40%, that's elite. If you're shooting 47%, that just gets silly. And they've been silly as of late. And so tip of the cap. Now, there's a byproduct to why they've been silly from beyond the arc, and that's because of their ball movement. They are willing to turn down a good shot to find a great shot on a consistent basis. And everybody that's got their feet set from beyond the arc, they are locked in. They are shot ready on the catch. They're not hesitating. And that is a confidence that Coach Young has given to this group. And it's a group that a year ago excelled from beyond the arc. And we're seeing a lot of those same pieces from last season step up and make shots now during the stretch run. And they'll continue to. I mean, I don't anticipate that this is going to be a poor shooting team by any stretch of the imagination. And I think at times they've undershot from the three-point line. Like they have not hit their mark. But I think their mark overall will be about 40% when we're all said and done at the end of the season. And that's an elite team from beyond the arc. And tonight's another example of a game where they can make some shots from beyond the arc, in particular in transition. I think the transition three is going to be very key tonight. Like how many of these three-point shots are going to come in transition? Arizona's length can be problematic in the half-court set. But when you've got guys running the wing and can you get them spaced and kick ahead and play out in front of that defense and shoot it with that confidence. And I've seen that so many times inside that building in big games that BYU can do that no matter what the roster look like and who the pieces are. But this is one of those games tonight where you want to try to play out out of front of that defense as much as possible, running on misses, running on turnovers, and making sure you're spacing to the corners and spacing to the wing to knock down those three-point shots. And if you get the ball in the paint, that opposite side three on the diagonal kick is going to be open. So they like to collapse. They like to utilize their length and swarm. If you can quickly move the ball, you're going to find that diagonal to the opposite side corner will be open. And those are the kind of three-point shots that tonight BYU has to knock down.
Desert swarm.
Yes. Sean, I wish you a full Sunday tonight. All the ice cream, all the toppings, whatever you want.
You haven't been to the cafeteria. You need to come to Bristol, Connecticut and enjoy the caf.
I've been one time to the cafeteria.
I've heard great things about it. Okay. All right. It's on the
It is really the
list.
ESPN commercial. Shams will be there tonight, and you better believe that I will be like, seriously, I thought you were hacked.
Dude,
we all did.
By the way,
I was on air.
That can't be there. That has to be the most crazy breaking news you've ever had in a live scenario. That is wild.
Yeah, I mean, so just so you guys, like out behind the curtain, right? We all know that in television we have a button that we can hit talk back. And when we hit talk back, it kills the mic to the audience listening at home, and it allows me to talk to my producer. So my producer gets in my ear on Saturday, Gonzaga St. Mary's, and goes, hey, you're probably going to want to mention a major trade just went down in the NBA. I said, who? AD for Luka. I said, stop. And he goes, no, seriously. And I'm like, no, seriously, no. He's like, Shams is reporting. I'm like, he got hacked. Like, I'm not saying that on air. There's no possible way that actually happened. Then I grab my phone, and, we're in the middle of a segment. Dave Fleming's doing all of his talking and all that. And I, look down, and Kevin Connors, who's hosting Sports Center, goes, dude, trade just went down, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, this is real. And so then I said it on air, and Fleming was like, I couldn't even get to the K of Luka. And he was like, what? Like, his voice cracked. It was awesome. It was nuts because you knew it was gonna take over. And the only part that frustrated me is it happened on Saturday.
Yeah.
And the reason why is Saturday was such an awesome day of college basketball from start to finish. So many great games, so many important games. I mean, the comeback for Baylor, being down 21 and knocking off Kansas, huge. I think the biggest win of the weekend actually was Texas Tech because they did it without JT Toppin and their head coach essentially for the entire game.
Wild.
And they were able to win that game. I mean, that was a massive win for Texas Tech, who to me is the team that everybody should be fearful of right now inside the Big 12 because they're connected defensively. They've got multiple shooters out on the floor. Their interior guys have been playing, and they've done it without being completely healthy. I mean, they've won games with Darren Williams out on an injury. They've done it without Toppin. They keep just winning games, and I think that's going to add to the strength of this conference as we come down the final couple weeks.
Sean, great to catch up with you, man. Glad you survived that breaking news madness. And
Wrap.
It's time to wrap. Be well, man. We'll look forward to your coverage.
All right, I'll see you guys next week. Everybody enjoy the game tonight.
You got it. Sean Farnham of ESPN, working hard, doing his thing on BYU Sports Station.